Hello and welcome to the Inside. This is Jeff here with Hill Financial Group. I am the CEO of Hill Financial Group, and I'm the creator and founder of the Retirement 2.0 movement. Guys, I want you to kind of relax a little bit because I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to teach you, right? My whole purpose in this is to help open your mind to what's going on economically to hopefully empower you to take action. Okay, what does action taking look like? Once I kind of show you and make a compelling argument of what's going on in the economy and what's going on with taxes, I want you to take action. More than anything, I want you to have a choice. See, a lot of times people come to the table and they don't realize they have a choice. What kind of choice? Let's take taxes, for example. Did you know paying taxes in retirement is a choice? Did anybody know that, right? Absolutely, it's a choice. You have to understand whatever tool you put your money into, you are buying the attributes of that tool. So I'm going to be tackling one of the most commonly used tools, which is going to be your 401k or your IRA. The reason why these are commonly used tools, because think about the name. 401k is a company-sponsored retirement program, if you will. IRA is an individual retirement arrangement, right? Or account, that somebody might say. But the arrangement is you're in the arrangement with the government, okay? Now, all this stuff is going to be based on tax law. Quick history lesson, taxes came in 1913. That's when the Federal Reserve was created, then taxes came into play. Prior to that, there was not any taxes that we had to worry about, right? And once taxes came into play, if you go back and you look at the tax chart, which I'll probably show you through my presentation, you're going to see taxes are kind of up and down, right? Now, right now, if I asked you, how do you feel about taxes? Do you think they're high right now? Do you think they're low? A lot of you will probably say, man, taxes are high. I hate paying taxes. Historically, though, taxes are in one of the lowest environments they've ever been in. Yes, I'm going to show you that because many of you might not believe it. Now, do we have way more taxes outside of just state and federal taxes? Yes, you have city tax, municipality tax, township tax. Your HOA dues might be considered a tax. You have grocery tax. You have all kind of taxes, but we're just more so talking about federal income tax and maybe some state tax, if you will. Okay. So again, the way this is designed, I'm going to create a couple of modules and I'm going to be teaching you through these modules because I want you guys to understand essentially what's going on, right? So there's going to be two tax treatments for the informed and for the uninformed. You've probably heard business owners. You probably heard Amazon made, I don't know, like 190 some billion dollars and they didn't pay any taxes. You're thinking, how in the world did they get away with that? And I made 100,000 last year and I had to pay $25,000 in taxes, right? So we're not necessarily going to go into tax strategies as much like that. That is a part of what I offer in my virtual family office experience. But more so, we're going to be talking about how do you keep Uncle Sam or the Internal Revenue Service and IRS out of your pockets in retirement? Because when you think about it, when we're putting money away today, we're not doing it for the tax deductions today necessarily, even though they're present. We're trying to save up the most amount of money in the future so we can have the highest quality of living, right? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you know where your taxes are going to be when you want to retire? Oh, wait. Think about it right now. We have the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, which is going to sunset in about 4 years, right? So when it's sunset, taxes are going to go back to what they were prior to Trump putting in the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. So we already know unless they change it or extend it, it's going to go up. Now, is it going to go back to 1970s to late 70s, early 80s tax brackets? Most likely not right now. But the writing is on the wall, and I can show you several documentaries. I can show you several books and articles that's talking about the ticking tax time bomb that's happening. I'll go ahead and give you one. One of the ones that I really, really love is The Power of Zero by David McKnight. I actually met Dave. We brought him to Arkansas, and he blew my mind with what was going on. Now, guys, understand, I'm an advisor. I do this for a living, and I have been for 13 years. So let me kind of tell you why this made such an impression on me. So when you come to the financial services industry, typically you don't see people as young as me, and I'm 40 years old right now. I came into the industry back when I was like 26, 27-ish, somewhere in that summer. Okay, so I got partnered with an older advisor, somebody who had probably been in the business 15, 20 plus years. One of my advisors was in his mid 60s. Okay, now what's good about that is I'm partnered with somebody who can give me a wealth of knowledge. This guy knows the business inside and out. He can teach me how to grow a book of business. He can teach me how to help my clients, right? Great, that's what you want. You want somebody who can instill how to actually be a professional, how to actually bring value to clients in this business, right? But one of the things that I've kind of noticed as I continue to advance my own financial IQ A lot of advisors are kind of stuck in a silo. They only think about things that they can get commission on, right? So they're not necessarily going to be talking about maybe real estate or maybe crypto or some of these other things that are really popular in the marketplace today. Because number one, compliance says they can't talk about that because there's risk involved in it. And then the other part about it is they just don't know what they don't know, and they can't get compensated. I was fortunate enough to be recruited by one of the top firms in the country. Okay, this firm is the oldest and largest mutual life insurance company in the United States and one of the largest in the world. And I was fortunate enough to be able to get granted an opportunity to learn from them. So I got to learn from some of the best and brightest minds in the industry, and I took that seriously, which is why I'm still in the business today. And I don't say that lightly, guys. This industry has like a 95% failure rate in the first 6 months. And I've been in for 13 plus years. Okay. So I'm literally proud to say I have a passion for this. And I'm always continuing to sharpen my sword because I want to be able to continuously bring value to the marketplace. Okay. So again, that's my goal for you guys, is to help bring value and help open your mind. If I can get you to think and maybe do a little research, then you're going to be like, huh, okay. And the Bible says, study to show thyself approved, right? I want you guys to do a little studying. I created the Retirement 2.0 movement for a reason. I want to find people who are actively involved, who want to be actively involved in retiring early or building a lifestyle. Maybe you don't want to retire early. Perfectly okay. Okay. But what I will say is retirement is not an age as much as it is an amount of money. What do I mean about that? Okay, let's say right now, I don't know what the lottery is, but let's say the lottery is $150 million. And let's say you're making $100,000 a year right now. And you just, this wild and crazy idea, let me go get a scratch off. It's 150 million, it's $1 or $3, whatever they are. Right. And you do it. Then all of a sudden, you hit this 150 million and you say, you know what? I'm going to take the lump sum that you might get, I don't know, 70 million after all the taxes and fees and everything. But $70 million now is dropped in your lap and you were making 100,000 blood, sweat, and tears 40 to 60 hours a week. Are you going back to work? Now, most people might say, well, yeah, I'm going to go to work. And you might say that until old Joe makes a joke or whatever. And you're like, I don't have to be here, And then you leave. Because why? You have enough money to live you should have enough money to live you for the rest of your life. Granted, the curse of the lottery is 3 to 5 years. Most people go broke because they have not raised their financial IQ. Taking this course, congratulations, is a step in raising your financial IQ. You are learning from somebody who's directly related to the financial services industry. So the name of the company is Hill Financial Group. I'm going to introduce you to some of the group things. So you'll be learning a lot from me because I'm the financial planning lead, or the coach, if you will. But again, as we start to go deeper in this paradigm, I'm going to be able to bring in more professionals. And again, some of that you might not get in this course, but if you purchase some of the other courses or attend some of the live sessions that I do, you will get to learn more. Okay. Now, let's go back. All right. So you got this whole paradigm that's happening in the industry and how things are starting to shift, right? So you have to learn how to shift your planning with the times, right? Think about it. Right now, I don't know, I got my screen, my background blurred, but this is a cell phone. If you think about it, when you learned about computers, the first computer was the size of a classroom, right? It was big, it was bulky, and it did very little, right? Now we have more technology and some of the remote controls that we have around our house than was in the very first computer. And everything has gotten smaller and sexier and faster and sleeker and 5G, all that, right? If everything else is changing, why is it that most people are not changing their mindset on tools that are used for retirement? Some of that is because their advisor has not updated their thinking as well. So when I go back to the analogy of being partnered with somebody who's older in the business, they know how to, like, they're content a lot of times. They're making their qualifying counsels or whatever level of expectations the company has set for them to achieve. They're doing that consistently, right? Because they know how to write business and they know how to do some planning. And some of that planning is very unique, but sometimes that planning can be somewhat incomplete because it's not addressing some of the issues like taxes, like inflation, like long-term care. How do we start to use tools that we can use one premium dollar, if you will, that can give us multiple benefits? Because things aren't getting any cheaper, right? They're not. Unfortunately, they aren't. So how can we start to use tools that can maximize our budget and allow us to be able to use some dollars elsewhere, right? Now, I will tell you this. I am not the buy term and invest the difference guy. If you signed up because you thought that's what you were getting, sorry, okay? I'm not that guy. I vehemently disagree mathematically, scientifically, and economically with that strategy. I will say that, and I do not shy away from saying that. That is definitely flawed. And throughout this, I hope you start to understand why I say it's flawed. Buy term and invest the difference. First of all, most people buy term and they spend the difference. But if you also don't know what the counterparty is, which is why people who are buy term and invest the difference are trying to say this strategy works better than the next, is this I'm not even going to open that can of worms right now, guys. I will tell you this. I like to have fun, so hopefully you guys are having fun in this. I don't want you to be uptight. You don't have to come in a suit. Be relaxed. I'm not necessarily going to be in the suit teaching you guys. I want to be comfortable. I want to be relaxed. I want to be able to share. Okay, I've been doing some screen shares. Any opportunity I have to draw, I love to draw stuff out because for me, I'm a visual learner. So sometimes one of the things I learned is about with my gift of numbers. I can literally sit there and take your budget and I can just see it like clear as I'm right on the whiteboard, and I can do all the math and calculations a lot of times just kind of right there in my mind. And I can see how everything can flow and how you can get out of debt faster and all that. And as I'm explaining it to you, or if I'm drawing it out, you might be able to see it. But once we click off a meeting, a lot of times that goes out the window. You might remember a little bit of it, but you might not remember all the steps. So I've learned I need to lean on technology more for this. I want you to be able to watch this course many times because the very first time you watch this, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't. You might come to the table and you know a little bit, be like, dang, okay, I never really thought about what that's going to look like. I never really thought about doing this, and this, right? And by the way, I do talk fast. This is not a sped up version. I just naturally talk fast. I try to slow it down if I can. I'm from the country, but I didn't want to be labeled as somebody from the country and stereotype. So naturally, I talk fast. So if that's too fast for you and you need to slow the video down, my goal is to have the replay to where you can change the speed. If you're somebody and you feel like you need to speed it up, great. But I'm going to try to make any effort to slow it down to make sure you understand. Okay. So being partnered with an older agent, you learned a lot. But unfortunately, sometimes the new agents or the old agents aren't necessarily learning. So if they're not learning, they can't teach you how to update your thinking. One of the things that I did is I was a student of the industry, not just the company. Most people come in and they're educated only by the company that they write business with. I wanted to know what my competition was doing. I heard Warren Buffett talk about this the other day when he was talking about buying some stock, right? He was like, when I buy stock, one of the things I want to do is I want to go get the prospectuses and reports of the company's competition, because how am I going to know what my companies that I just bought should be doing if I don't know what the competition is doing? So for me, I like to go get educated with different companies just to see how they're educating their advisors and what they're doing. What methodology are they using to educate everybody that maybe I don't know? Maybe I can pick up some language and say, "Ooh, you know what? That's a great example. I like the way they position it. Let me use that with my clients as well," right? Excuse me. So you want an advisor that has their ear to the ground and they're looking at ways to bring more value to you. This is a value-based business, in my opinion. So my goal is to bring ultimate value to you. So what I want to do, I'm gonna step over here and do a screen share, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of a presentation, if you will, and I'm gonna help kind of frame your mindset with taxes, okay? And then I'm actually going to show you another tax presentation that shows you more of the choice and what that choice kind of looks like. And then I can do some report walkthroughs and all that kind of stuff. So this course will probably have 4 to 5 modules in it. Sometimes I can get long-winded. I'm going to try to cut these down so you can get it in bite-sized time frames if you can. So it might be longer than 4 or 5 modules because I know I'm super passionate and I can just run with this kind of stuff, okay? So my goal is to try to break some of this stuff down as much as possible. So I'm glad you're here. Again, this is Jeff Hill with Hill Financial Group and the Retirement 2.0 model. So let me do a screen share and hopefully this records the way it's supposed to, because you know how technology works. All right, we're going to start this from the current slide here. Okay, now you're going to see me looking back and forth because I use dual monitors. So the actual presentation is on my second monitor. So if I'm over here, I'm paying attention. I'm just looking at the same vision that you see on the screen. Okay, so guys, one of the things I told you is I want to kind of break down what's going on in some of your traditional tools that you use. So you have to understand that here in America, again, here in America, if you're in Canada, you're somewhere else, I don't really know how the tax system works. You can still probably glean from some of the things that I talk about because you might have some of the same access to some of the same tools or techniques in your own country. But again, I will also say this. I am not an attorney and I am not a CPA or an accountant. So this is for educational and informational purposes only. This is also not, I don't want you to consider this as financial advice, so to speak. So if you have your own advisor, go talk to your own advisor about your own unique situation so they can actually help you. If you do not have an advisor and you want to use myself and my firm and my team, by all means, we are open for new clients. So hop in and have a conversation with us so we can see how we can best be a resource to you. So back to this. In America, there are two tax systems. Say it with me, two tax systems. You got one for the informed and one for the underinformed, which is why business owners, when they say, oh, let's tax the rich, a lot of times the rich people are controlling their money. They're not necessarily earning it. And I heard one of my mentors, Bob Proctor, say this. Earning is the worst way to earn money because you have to trade your time for it. Rich people use multiple sources of income, and a lot of times it's passive income. So passive income is oftentimes taxed less than ordinary or earned income. So when you become informed, Warren Buffett says if rich people, well, poor people just did what rich people did, they wouldn't be poor anymore. So guys, I don't want you to demonize people who make a lot of money or who have a lot of things going on. Learn what they do and educate yourself on how to get there. And please stop saying let's just tax the rich like that solves everything. Because if you think about historically speaking, when that happens, what typically happens is it gets passed down. It's called a trickle down effect. So as this stuff starts to trickle down, it's going to go to the middle class and even some of the poor class. Even thinking about inflation. Inflation is called a stealth tax. It's one of the most insidious taxes ever created to man. Okay. So we're talking about qualified plans and things like that today, right? All right. So let's hop in here and do a little more. Okay. And I'm a little congested today, guys. So if I need to stop, blow my nose, wipe it or whatever, please don't judge me. Okay. So you got 401ks, you got IRAs, you got 403Bs for the underinformed. People blindly put their money into these tools. So let's talk quickly about how the 401k even came into the existence, right? Prior to the 401k or qualified plans, you had what's called pension plans. Okay, a pension plan was a guaranteed paycheck that you can bank on for the rest of your life. So typically, what happened is somebody had a job and they went to work. They worked for 30, 40 years for the same company. They got their gold watch and they got their pension plan. Paycheck for the rest of your life, right? That's what happened. Well, eventually, what happened is the 401ks came in because pension plans were expensive for companies to administer. Whether the company had a good year or a bad year, they had to put the same amount of money aside for you. Now, for the pension of the fund manager, it was really easy because they can look at how many employees they have, how long people have been there, how much they make, and they can say, great. When Joe retires, Joe is going to need, let's say the pension plan gave you half of your salary and Joe was making $70,000 a year. Joe is going to need $35,000 a year for the rest of his life. So the pension plan manager looks at this big overall fund that they're managing and it says, okay, when Joe retires, we're going to need to pull X amount of dollars out of this overall fund, and we need to go buy an annuity to give him a paycheck for the rest of his life. So now that money is not invested in the marketplace anymore. So he doesn't have to worry about the fluctuations of the money. And now Joe can go in there and say, you know what? Comfortably, I'm going to be okay. I'm bringing almost $3,000 in a month. Plus, I have my Social Security. Now, retirement used to be done like that. Think about it like a stool. You had a three-legged stool. You had your pension plans, you had your Social Security, and then you had your personal assets. Well, now all of a sudden, retirement has changed. So when you think about what's considered qualified money, you got your 401ks, you got your IRAs, and not necessarily a Roth. Okay, I would say Roth is maybe on the other side because Roth is typically done with after-tax money. Okay, non-qualified is where you're trying to make a personal pension plan. Okay. Now, sometimes people might throw in CDs and money market accounts and some life insurance and some other things like that. But I want to try to help bring some clarity to what's going on because sometimes I'll scroll social media and I'll see somebody on there just spewing information like it's correct. And unfortunately, it's noise. Okay. It's good for likes and follows, but sometimes these people aren't advisors and sometimes they don't know what they don't know either. I've heard people say, oh, all you got to do is open up this Roth or open up this IRA when you're 20 and you put $50 a month in there and it's going to compound at 10% interest. And when you retire, you're going to retire $3 million. And I see people in the comments like, that's it. Oh, yeah, I got $50 right now. How do I get started? Please help me. And it was like, well, I can't really help you, but just go find somebody that can because it looks good, but it's not that simple. This is not Jack and the Magic Beanstalks where you can take 3 little beans, plant them, and all of a sudden that's all you have to do. That's how people think about retirement. And again, I've been in this industry for a while, so I've heard all kind of crazy things. And I remember early in my career, one guy said, "See, so young man, how much do your retirement plans cost?" And I'm like, what do you mean?" In his mind, I had to help him reframe the question. I'm like, they cost how much you want to put into it. Like, so in his mind is like, well, let me pay $30,000 for your retirement plan, and then it's gonna grow, and that's all I need to do. It doesn't work like that. Okay, you have to actually fund the retirement plan, and whatever dollar you don't do now won't be there in the future. Okay. Now, let's talk about some of the risks that are happening because if you don't understand kind of what you're up against, it's going to be really hard for you to make an educated decision. Okay. Because again, remember, people just start to blindly put their money inside of the 401ks because that's what was easy. 401k, you go to your job, they say, here's your benefits package. Go to page such and such, and you need to go ahead and elect your 401k. There's even laws right now that's designed to make companies automatically enroll you in the 401k. Why are they trying to do that? Okay. One is they want you to save money for retirement. So they want you doing something. But the other thing about it is you have to think about how the government makes money. How do you think that is? Somebody probably got it right. Taxes. So if we can automatically enroll you in a 401k, you could go ahead and start saving money, i.e., the government knows, hey, if we got all these people saving money, we control the tax code. All we have to do is change the tax code when the bulk of these people are starting to retire. And now all of a sudden, more money can go to us and not to them. Think about that for a second. But let's talk about one of the first risks that you guys have to understand. And this is a really easy one, okay? Market losses. Right now, 2022, okay, if I should probably look it up today, but this is the weekend and the markets are closed. Right now, we are sliding into a recession. We're not even sliding, we're in a recession, right? And a recession typically happens when you have 2 negative quarters in a row, which we've had. And right now, everything is starting to tank. Okay, so what does that mean to you, right? When you think about the crashes, depending on where you are, here's what you're typically taught. You're young. You can afford to take some risks. You have a long time horizon, okay? And one of the things I teach when I teach macro asset perspective, which is a visual model on where people should put their assets and why, I kind of talk about it like this. Let's say you're 20 years old. You have, I don't know, 45 years that you're going to retire. All right, 45 years, here's what it looks like. You might say, you know what? I need 80% of my money aggressive and I need 20% conservative because I have a long time horizon before I need that money, right? All of a sudden, you can weather a market crash, right? Let's say the market crashes when you are 30. You started at 20, the market crashed, and you lost 30%. No big deal. You don't need that money for now another 35 years. So you got time to weather that storm. All of a sudden, you're rocking along there, and boom, at age 45, 15 years later, the market crashes again. Not a problem. You don't need the money for another 20 years, right? So all of a sudden, market's coming back up. 10 years later, 55. Boom. Okay. Nah, I don't like it, but it's not bad. I still have another 10 years before I need the money. It's going to rebound, right? And then it does. Now, all of a sudden, what happens when you're 65 and the market crashes again? So the question is, how many more crashes are going to happen in your lifetime? Okay. And when you kind of look at this chart, it's really troubling, right? So one of the things I want you guys to understand is the years to recover. Okay. Now, since 2008, we've been on what's called a bull run. Bulls run. Think about the running of the bulls, a lot of times what they have in Spain and things like that. You have bull markets and you have bear markets. Bear markets, think about a cupboard being barren. It's not a lot going on. Not the best time to be in there. It's the best time to buy, but okay, again, I'll get into conventional wisdom later on. But 39% losses in 2007 and 8, and it took 5 years to recover. So now let's go back to this scenario. You're 65 and you lose money. You get ready to retire. Can you afford to wait 5 years before your money recovered now? What happens if you start retirement and then it crashes? And you're pulling money out of an account that's already losing. Now you are doubling down on the rate of spending, and you're going to run out of money super fast. Eventually, we'll get into something called sequence of returns and why that matters so much, okay? But I want you guys to kind of understand, here's what's going on. Now, this is a choice. There are tools out there that can protect you against market losses, right? If there was a tool that was available, would you do it? A question that I often like to ask is, the stock market can only go up. It can go down, or sometimes it can stay the same, right? If you can remove any one of those directions of your money moving, which one would you want to remove? When I ask that question, most people say, well, I would like to remove the down. I don't want my money to be losing, right? Okay, great. Inside traditional tools like 401ks and IRAs, can you do that? Maybe. Maybe if you go to an all cash position, you're not going to lose money to the market dropping. But what about inflation? This past year, we've experienced some of the worst inflation over like 40 years, to the total of like 8.9%. So that means, let's just round it up to 9%. That means if you had $100,000, you just lost $9,000 worth of purchasing power. The market didn't crash, but the $100,000 doesn't buy you the exact same. It buys you $91,000 worth of stuff. And when you think about how inflation continues to go, if inflation continues to rise, how long is it going to be before your money or your purchasing power is cut in half? Okay. Now, I know I'm throwing some things out there, but I'm throwing this out there because I want you guys to kind of be stimulated and think, I never really thought about how some of this stuff plays a combination. And I've educated a lot of advisors in my day about some of the things I do and how I talk to my clients, some of the things I bring up. And it's interesting how some people are just like, wait, what? Well, I don't do that. I just put them in the market, and the market has done X amount of percent, and I just trust that to be the thing. And I'm like, but what about these time periods where that wasn't happening? If you look back between 29 and 32, that took 22 years for that to recover. That was 89% loss. That is horrible. Okay. So these losses, again, average loss 47% every 11 years. Now, every 11 years, think about it. Think about something called the rule of 72. The rule of 72 says compounded interest. So if I take the number 72, and let's assume my money grows at 8%. So 72 divided by 8 equals 9. Every 9 years, my money should double. So let's say you're getting 8%. Every 9 years, your money is doubling. But as your money doubles, you're losing 47% of it 2 years later. How do you work that? How do you make that go in your favor, right? What if there was a way for you to prevent the losses? And when the losses did happen, you had your money in a tool that was safe, liquid, but productive. So that now when this stuff happens, you can actually take advantage of it instead of always being harmed by it. Another thing is the cost. Cost absent of value makes the world of a difference. And here's what I mean, okay? Right now, you pay somebody probably to manage your portfolio. Maybe you have an advisor, you pay them commissions, right? Rightfully so. People have to get paid for their work, right? Okay. What happens when you lose money? Who's at fault? Is it your advisor because they put you in some funds and lost money? Is it the marketplace? Is it a combination of everything, right? And I remember early in my career when I was becoming a registrar at Learning Investments, one of the guys that was teaching me, he said, listen, here's what you say to your clients. And it was sage advice. He's like, listen, at some point in time, the market's going to be up, it's going to be down. When it's down, you're going to want to throw a brick through my window. And when you do, just make sure it has a check attached to it. Boom, mic drop. And here's why. Conventional wisdom says we should buy low, sell high. When the market is low, you're mad because you're losing money. That check tied to that brick, boom, buy me some more. You should do that because it's at a discount. However, emotionally, that's not what we do. Because we've lost money, the last thing we want to do is put our money in the tool. We see it sinking, because we don't know what the bottom looks like, right? Even though we should buy low, sell high, right? Now, when you think about the cost, The average cost just to own a 401k is between 0.8% and 1.88%. That also does not include the cost of the actual mutual funds, okay? Excuse me. So typically when you have your 401k, you're invested in mutual funds. Maybe some of them might allow you to have some stocks and bonds, but typically mutual funds or equities, if you will. Not a problem with that, right? That's just what they have to offer. Unfortunately, though, there's a lot of really cool names that you get to choose from, but none of them have any guarantees. This is the total return fund. This is a such and such safe money guard fund. None of it is safe. None of it is safe. It's not safe from losses, but it's also not safe from taxes. Okay. Now, what you pay for something and what you get for something, that's cost versus value, right? And I kind of look at it like this. If you think about what happened in 2007 and 8 when the market crashed, nobody went to jail over this. And it was a lot of, go watch the movie The Big Short. It was a lot of crazy stuff that went on. The Big Short and The Inside Job. Watch those. Inside Job is more of a documentary. The Big Short is more of a movie. I've watched those movies I don't know how many times because it just astonishes me how this stuff is going on, and people know about it. The government and entities know about it, but because lobbyists are padding these pockets, we're gonna turn a blind eye to it, right? That's what's happening, right? So it wasn't until 2012 that the 401k companies had to actually disclose how much the clients were paying in fees. Did you realize that the fees and expenses out of your 401k can eat up to 43% of your growth? So we talk about compounded interest, right? Money doubles, it starts to compound. If you put your money in this account and it compounds every single year at this rate, it's going to equal X. But what's also compounding is your fees on the back end. What's also compounding is your taxes on the back end. So compounded money can be good, but would you rather have a compounded pre-tax or after tax? Pre-taxes, I'm going to defer my taxes and I'm going to pay them at some point in the future, no matter what they are. After taxes, I pay my taxes up front, and all of a sudden on the back end, it's tax-free. In the country, I like to say, if you were a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or on the harvest? Seed or harvest? I love asking people this because now their light bulb is starting to kind of twist. You know how you twist a light bulb and it kind of like blinks a little bit? Then I'm like, wait, well, I would rather pay taxes on the seed, right? Because I know what that seed is, and that harvest grows, that's going to be a lot. Absolutely. Think about that. If you pay taxes on the seed, you're going to go ahead and get them out of the way. If that harvest grows, which if we're investing money for our retirement, we want that to be big, right? Well, how big do you want that to be when you know the government has their thumbprint on how much you actually get to choose? It's kind of like if we were going into business with each other and I said, hey, listen, I got a great business proposition for you. I want you to put all your money in up front. I want you to take all the risk. I want you to manage the day-to-day activity. And when you retire, I'll tell you how much money you owe me. Think about that. You put all your money in up front. You take all the risk. You manage the day-to-day activities. And when you retire, I'll tell you how much money you owe me. Would you go into business with me? A lot of you are probably thinking, heck no. Why would I ever do that, Jeff? That's crazy. Every day you put your money into a 401k or kind of an IRA, you do the exact same thing. You put your money in up front, then the company might match. Okay. When you lose money, it doesn't hurt the company. That was a tax deduction for them. It doesn't hurt them. So you take all the risk. You're either picking your own funds or maybe, you letting a target date fund or something like that do it all for you. That's the whole management of the day-to-day activity. And when you retire, from a tax standpoint, the government says, well, I'll tell you how much money you owe me. Because remember, you don't control taxes. And whatever tool you put your money into, you are buying the attributes of that tool. Nobody taught you how to be an advisor. Nobody taught you how to read that prospectus and understand what all that stuff means. 12B1 fees, mutual funds, asset fees, closing. Nobody taught you all that kind of stuff. So now all of a sudden, we went from a pension plan that you didn't have to do anything for to a 401k to where you need to really kind of understand what's going on and where you're putting your money. And if you lose, why you lose. If you're conservative, why you're conservative. Nobody taught you that kind of stuff. And most people are not reading enough to try to understand it. Okay. So what do? We just do it and we hope for the best. Now, another big thing that we have to really think about, right? Okay. This is the whole fee thing that I was just talking about. Another thing we got to think about is how all of this stuff comes together, right? When you think about the benchmarks and everything they're using, and you think about your money growing, and you think about what a fee would be, we don't really understand how these fees compound. And we don't really understand how much that can eat up. So earlier you heard me kind of mention this. So let me show you what I mean. The real cost of owning a mutual fund. And this is Forbes. Now, this article is a little bit old, but nothing has really changed that much. I will give a plug to Vanguard. And Vanguard does not pay me for this, but in the industry, Vanguard has some of the lowest fees and expenses ratio. So I think John Bogle is the name. He did that because, again, he understands how fees can erode the growth. So when you think about it, the true cost of owning a mutual fund is about 3.17%. If it's a taxable account, meaning you've been deferring your taxes and you have to pay the taxes on the back end, it's 4.1%. What does that mean? Imagine your account grew at 6%. Now you need to subtract 3.17 for fees. Okay, because that's essentially what's happening, right? Then your fees are compounded. So the bigger the account, the bigger the fees. I'm probably gonna have to pause here because I can feel myself getting more congested and I don't want to take away from the video, but I'm in a groove and I don't want to have to pause because I gotta start and it's gonna make editing on the back end way crazier. So bear with me. But this is what's going on. Okay, remember, before 2012, nobody had to really disclose what's happening. But again, people in my industry, I'm a member of NAFA, the National Association for Insurance and Financial Advisors. Excuse me. We fought hard for companies to have to. They had to talk about what they were doing. They had to disclose how much is going on, right? So when they did that, they had to be more transparent. And I'll send you these articles as well. So don't worry about having to look this stuff up. I'll give that all to you so you can go read this stuff. This is not me just making it up. This is stuff out there. So again, you have a lot of fees that are built inside of there. You got sales charges, management fees, mutual fund fees, front end, back end. You got all kind of stuff. That's going to eat up 30+% of your growth, right? When you think about it, this is the thing that happened in 2012 where we had to get the transparency of fees. And one of the things we also did with the Secure Act, we wanted people to understand what their overall account value meant from an income standpoint. Because sometimes people see this big 401k number, and let's say big is 400,000, and you're thinking, ooh, 400,000, great, I'm going to be okay in retirement, right? Because you've never had to manage 400,000 at one time, so you don't really know how big or how small that number is, right? Well, let's say you were making $50,000 a year and you wanted to be able to spend $50,000 in retirement. You got 400,000, that's 8 years. Now, again, remember, because you've been deferring these taxes, you got to start paying taxes on them. So do you need to take out 65 to pay 50,000 in taxes to net 50? Now, all of a sudden, you're going to be out in what, 6 years? And that's if you can guarantee that money, you can't guarantee that you won't take any losses in retirement. Okay, this is what's going on in the marketplace. Now, another big thing that you have to worry about, and this is a big one. This is the one that I'm probably the most concerned with, is the future tax rates. Okay, now taxes don't stop. Inflation doesn't stop when you retire. So when you think about the bulk of the baby boomers are starting to retire now, think about what's happening. These people have financial obligations, that the Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that, that they paid into and they expect it. But the government doesn't have the money to pay it. There's a website called US Debt Clock. I'm going to show you a snapshot of the old one, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to tell you why I'm showing you the old one, because I want you to see what it is now, okay? Because it is absolutely crazy. So as all these people are retiring, they're going to be pulling money from these entitlement accounts. And if the government can't pay it now, they can't afford to do it, only about maybe 40% of the baby boomers are retired. What do you think happens when 100% of them are retired and they're legally pulling from a system they paid into? Okay, think about that. So the question, do you think taxes are going to be higher in the future? Just yes or no. The reason why I say just yes or no, because I don't want you guys to say, well, if the Democrat, if the Republican, it honestly doesn't really matter, guys. It doesn't. Because all politicians are doing is just kicking this can down the road as far as possible because they don't want the thing to crash underneath their administration, okay? But it still happens. So when you think about it, taxes naturally have to increase. It's a mathematical certainty that they will increase because this is how the government makes money. And when you think about the highest tax bracket as it related to the debt, the higher the tax brackets, the lower the debt. Right now, we have the lowest tax brackets, period, and we have some of the highest debt, period. So how do we offset that? Think about it. How do you balance a budget? You need to either make more income to offset it, or you need to pay less in expenses, or a combination of the two. Are we spending less money as a government or more money? When you think about these stimulus packages, A lot of times we are printing money. When the government prints some money, do we know what that's called? It starts with a big I. It's called inflation. When inflation happens, do you know what that causes? It causes volatility in the marketplace. So the faster we're printing money, the more volatility starts to happen, which is why if you start to look at the charts now in terms of growth in the marketplace, you start to see more of this happening. We don't know what is, I mean, it's not going to stop. We don't know how bad it's going to be and what it's going to affect us, right? So if you assume taxes are going to be higher in the future, do you think they can be a lot higher? Do you want to pay them? If not, what's your strategy to make sure you're not going to get hung by taxes in retirement? Okay. Now, U.S. debt clock. Back when I did this, we were at $19 trillion. $19 trillion. And then I think I did this one, what, maybe 2017, I think, is when this snapshot was taken. 2017. Here's what I want to do. I am going to stop sharing that. And what I'm going to do is take you and let you see what it is right now. Okay? Because I know most of you might not have the time to go do it. So I am going to do it for you. Okay? And again, I'll put these links in the course so you can see what's going on. Now let me do the screen share again. All right, so we saw 19 trillion. Right now, we are 30.8 trillion with a T. That is a lot of zeros. A lot of zeros, right? And this is where we are in debt. When you think about our gross domestic product, think about this like your income, right? We got way more debt than we do income. When you think about our debt to income ratio, we owe 124% of what we make. So that's not good. How do you balance that budget? You need to make more money, which is the government makes money how? Through taxes, right? You need to spend less money. When you think about the federal, then you add the state, that's an unworkable number. What I like about the US debt clock is I like to go back in history. Let's go back to 2016 real quick. Let's see how close we were. 2016, yeah. So 2017, we're around the same, right? So when you think about that, from this time, 6 years later, 6 years later, that's what, about $12 trillion that has been printed. If you think about it, oh, let me blow your mind a little bit, guys. All right, that was, okay. So this is 2020. On this day in 2020, so the last 2 years, about 5 trillion has been printed. Let me tell you why that's astonishing. In 2008, 10, let's look at 4. Okay, so 2004. Most of you were probably alive or should have been alive around that time. Right? $7.4 trillion. Now, if you think about 1776 to 2004, I don't know, that's 200 and I don't know what 274. Let's say 230 years, right? Whatever. Let's say 230 years. That means in 230 years, it took us that long to accumulate 7.4 trillion in debt. Now let's go out. 18 years. In the last 18 years, we've added $23 trillion in 18 years. So we have multiplied, we have 4x our debt in a fraction of the time. And there's no end in sight on doing this. So let's go into the future real quick. Sorry for the sniffles, but I got to get this out, as in like the content out. 4 years into the future on this day, based on the numbers accumulating. And again, it could be a lot worse than this. It could be a lot worse because the more we have to print money, the more we fund wars and all that kind of stuff, the worse it is. So they're saying in the next 4 years, we're going to probably print or increase another $11 trillion, almost 11 trillion. Okay. Now, when you think about this debt to income ratio, let's think about what's happening, right? Anytime you make income, what do you have to do? You have to service your debt. You have to pay your interest on the debt. It's going to get to a point, probably somewhere up in here, if not very soon thereafter, we won't have enough income to service just the interest on the debt. So that's a major issue. Why is it such an issue? Because the government needs to get what? They need to get tax money, right? Where can they get tax money? Where's the largest amount of money held right now? In the stock market, in qualified plans. That means all this tax deferred stuff that you've been thinking was really good, they're waiting on it because they know when the bulk of the people who have this stuff should be retiring and when they should go ahead and do it. Now, I will say this, over the next, I don't know, like what, 10, 15, maybe 20 years tops, is going to be the greatest transfer of wealth in history. I think somewhere between, I think I saw the other day, 30 and like $55 trillion are going to be transferred in the next 15 to 20 years because the baby boomers who have the money are unfortunately going to be dying. They're going to be passing this money around. Okay, so this is a call for people who want to get into the financial services industry. It is a very great time to get in here because we need more people who are professional, who are ethical, who want to actually learn, teach, and educate and help people protect themselves, right? Because there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff going on and it can affect you in a lot of different ways, which is why I like to keep people safe, liquid, and protected. And I'll show you, I'll teach you when might be the optimal time that you might want to go into the market, right? It's up to you to make the decisions, right? So I want you guys to understand this is happening with or without us. But more importantly, let me go back to today and let me touch on something. This already is alarming, right? Then you have this that's alarming. Unfunded debt interest. Okay, you think about this, total interest paid, that's a lot. U.S. total debt, that's a lot. But down here is even worse. When you think about this liability per citizen, that's over $500,000. That means, hey, listen, guys, if all the citizens in the U.S. paid us $514,000, whew, man, we could get back good. Do you got it? No, probably not, right? These unfunded liabilities and entitlement programs, meaning these are promises to pay that the government does not have an answer on how to solve. Okay, if the government doesn't have the answer on it, and all these people, these baby boomers who rightfully have paid into it, want their entitlement benefits because they are entitled to them because they paid into them their entire working career, where does the government get that money? They get it from where? They get the money from taxes, right? All of a sudden, now we're in a bit of a pickle, right? Because they are rightfully owed that money, they get it from taxes. But if they don't get it from taxes, the government can print what that you and I can't print. The government can print money, right? And when they print money, that starts with a big I. It's called what? Inflation. When inflation happens, it causes what? Volatility. So when you think about the already looming issue of how do we service this debt, how do we handle this, not to mention, we still got our traditional spending. Government is getting bigger, so you still got more government entities being created. We got Space Force and all that. Taxpayer dollars have to pay for that stuff, right? Unless it's private money. All of a sudden, how do we make all that stuff and this happen? This is a major issue. This is why it's such a crucial time to be doing planning right now, more specifically tax efficient planning, because this is a huge issue, okay? So I'm going to wind this video down, and in the next video, I'm going to get into talking about what you can do and what kind of strategies can we be using that can actually help us, all right? See you on this side.